What if I told you that the most terrifying monsters don't lurk in the shadows? They don't hide in abandoned buildings or dark alleyways. No, the most terrifying monsters live in beautiful suburban homes. They smile at their neighbors. They post happy family photos on Facebook. They take their children to Disneyland. And behind closed doors, they chain those same children to beds. They starve them. They beat them. They torture them for decades. Welcome back to the hidden world. I'm about to tell you a story that will haunt your nightmares. A story about a couple who fooled everyone, their families, their neighbors, the entire world. From the outside, David and Louise Turpin look like the perfect parents. 13 beautiful children, all with names starting with the letter J. A big house in sunny California. Annual trips to Las Vegas to renew their wedding vows. Matching outfits for the entire family. Picture perfect. But when police finally entered that house on January 14, 2018, they discovered a scene so horrific that even veteran officers broke down in tears. Children chained to beds with padlocks. The stench of human waste filling every room. 13 siblings so malnourished that officers thought they were all children. 7 of them were adults. The oldest was 29 years old. She weighed 82 pounds. 82 pounds. Some of the children had never seen a doctor, never been to a dentist. They were allowed to shower once a year. Once a year. Some didn't know what medication was. Some didn't know what a police officer was. They had been hidden from the world their entire lives. This is the story of the Turpin House of Horrors, and it all began with a teenage love story. 1984, Princeton, West Virginia. A small town where everyone knew everyone. A town built on faith and family values. David Allen Turpin was 23 years old. A computer engineering student at Virginia Tech. By all accounts, he was brilliant. Member of the Bible Club. Member of the chess club. Member of the science club. He sang in the a cappella chorus. A good Christian boy from a good Christian family. Louise Anna Robinette was 16, just 16 years old, a sophomore at Princeton High School. Her father, Wayne, was a preacher. Her mother, Phyllis, sang in the church choir. The family was devoutly Pentecostal, strict, religious, conservative. David and Louise met at church, the 23-year-old man and the 16-year-old girl, 8 years apart. And somehow, Louise's mother allowed them to date, secretly, behind her father's back. But David wasn't patient. One day, he walked right into Princeton High School. He convinced the school staff to release Louise to him. Without her parents' knowledge, without any consent. He simply signed her out, and they drove away. David drove Louise all the way to Texas, over 1,000 miles from home, before police finally stopped them. Her mother wanted Louise brought home immediately, but her father, the preacher, he said no. She made her choice, he said. Let her go, live her life. So they got married. 1985, in a small church ceremony in Virginia. He was 24. She was 16. Louise's sister, Teresa, later said David promised Louise the world. If you marry me, he told her, I'll give you everything you ever wanted. A big house, nice cars. She would never have to work. Prince Charming had arrived. The couple moved to Texas. David got a job as an engineer. He would go on to work for Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, major defense contractors, earning a 6-figure salary. And the children started coming, one after another, after another. 1988, Jennifer. 1992, Joshua. Then Jessica, Jonathan, Joy, Julianne, Janetta, Jordan, James, Joanna, Jolinda, Julissa, and finally, in 2015, Jana. 13 children, 10 daughters, 3 sons, all names beginning with J. The picture-perfect Christian family. But behind the family photos, something dark was growing. The first signs appeared in Texas. Neighbors in Fort Worth noticed the Turpin children never played outside. They were rarely seen at all. And when they were seen, they looked pale, thin, Scared, the family kept them away from everybody. If a neighbor tried to speak to one of the children, the child would freeze, terrified, unable to respond. In 1999, the family moved from Fort Worth to Rio Vista, Texas, a more isolated location. Fewer prying eyes. And in 2007, something unthinkable happened. David and Louise moved 10 of their children into an isolated trailer on their property. 10 children, alone, in a trailer. David and Louise kept the 2 youngest with them in the main house and left the other 10 to fend for themselves. They would bring groceries once a week, but never enough. Never enough to feed 10 growing children. Jordan Turpin, who was only 6 years old at the time, later described what that was like. There was a lot of starving, she said. She would eat ketchup, mustard, ice, anything she could find. 6 years old, eating condiments to survive. When the family finally left the Rio Vista property in 2010, neighbors found what they left behind. Feces covering the walls, beds with ropes tied to them, dead cats, piles of garbage. The Turpins had been keeping their children in filth, tying them to beds for years, and no one knew. Meanwhile, Louise was cutting off her family completely. Her sisters weren't allowed to visit. Her parents weren't allowed to see their grandchildren. Anytime family asked to come, Louise made excuses, but she kept up the facade. On Facebook, she posted photos of a perfect family. Trips to Disneyland, all 13 children dressed in matching outfits, smiling. Friends on social media called her a supermom. "How do you do it with 13 kids?" they asked. "I can barely handle 2. Louise smiled and accepted the compliments, while her children starved in chains. 2014, the Turpin family moved to Perris, California, a quiet city about 70 miles east of Los Angeles. Suburban, safe, unremarkable. They moved into a large house on Muir Woods Road. From the outside, it looked like any other home. Neatly maintained, nice lawn, expensive cars in the driveway. But inside was a prison. The children were kept in different rooms, locked away, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months. Punishment could come at any time, for any reason, or for no reason at all. At first, they used ropes to tie the children to their beds. But when some of the children learned to wriggle free, David and Louise upgraded to chains, heavy chains, secured with padlocks. One victim said he was chained on and off for 6 years. 6 years, and they weren't released to use the bathroom. Evidence in the house suggested the children were forced to soil themselves while chained to their beds. The stench was overwhelming. Human waste, rotting garbage, molding food. The smell permeated everything. Jordan later told police that sometimes she woke up and couldn't breathe. Because of how dirty the house was, the children were allowed 1 meal a day. One. And it was never enough. Meanwhile, David and Louise bought food for themselves. They left apple pies and pumpkin pies on the kitchen counter, in plain sight, where their starving children could see them, but never eat them. The pies would sit there, molding, rotting. While the children watched, toys were also visible throughout the house, still in their original packaging. The children were not allowed to play with them. They were not allowed to play at all. The family slept during the day and stayed awake at night, going to sleep at 4 or 5 in the morning. This way, no one would see what was happening inside. The children were allowed to shower once a year. Once a year, they could wash their hands. But if they washed above the wrist, they would be accused of playing in the water and punished. The beatings were constant. David and Louise beat their children, strangled them, threw them across rooms, pulled their hair. Louise was known for violent outbursts. Jennifer, the oldest, remembered her mother's unpredictable rage. One moment calm, the next moment violent. Jordan remembered one incident that changed everything. She was caught watching a Justin Bieber music video. In secret, her mother found out, and Louise violently choked her. "I thought I was going to die that day," Jordan said. After that incident, Jordan made a decision. She would find a way to escape, no matter what. But here's what makes this case so chilling. To the outside world, the Turpins look completely normal. David and Louise would occasionally take their children out in public, always dressed in matching clothes, always with matching haircuts, always smiling for photos. The family went to Disneyland multiple times. They seemed to genuinely enjoy it. The photos show all 15 of them together, wearing matching t-shirts, standing in front of Cinderella's castle, looking like any other happy family. They went to Las Vegas multiple times to renew their wedding vows. At least 3 times they renewed their vows. In 2011, they renewed them in front of an Elvis impersonator. All the children attended, dressed in their matching outfits. Facebook showed the Turpins living the American dream. But something was off, and some people noticed. Neighbors in Perris rarely saw the children, and when they did, the children looked strange, pale, extremely thin, silent unless spoken to, like children whose only defense was to be invisible. One neighbor, Kimberly Milligan, tried to talk to the children in 2015. It was near Christmas. Some of the older children were outside setting up a nativity scene. Milligan complimented their decorations. The children froze. They immediately shut down, Milligan said. They seemed scared to death. You could tell they were terrified. But Milligan didn't call the police. No one did. The children were supposedly homeschooled. David had registered their home as a private school, the Sandcastle Day School, he called it. He was listed as the principal, but there was no schooling, no education. The children barely knew how to read. Some didn't know basic concepts. What medication was, who police were, how the outside world worked. They had been completely isolated for their entire lives. By 2018, the Turpin children had been planning their escape for more than 2 years. 2 years of careful planning. 2 years of waiting for the right moment. Jordan Turpin was 17 years old. She had been watching, learning, preparing. She had found an old cell phone, deactivated, but she knew it could still call 911. She kept it hidden from her parents. She also took photos, secret photos of her siblings, chained to their beds, evidence, proof of what was happening. Then Jordan heard something that made her act. Her parents were planning to move the family to Oklahoma, another state, another fresh start for her parents, another prison for her and her siblings. It was now or never. January 14th, 2018, 5:49 in the morning. Before the sun came up, Jordan climbed out of a window. Her 13-year-old sister followed her. Together, they would escape. But the younger girl got scared. She turned back, too afraid of what would happen if they were caught. Jordan kept going, alone. She ran out into the street. She had almost never been outside before. She didn't even know about sidewalks. "You're supposed to be on the sidewalk," she said later. But I'd never been out there. She ran until she was far enough away. Then she pulled out the phone. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably. She dialed 911. "I just ran away from home, and we have abusing parents." The dispatcher asked how her parents abused them. "They hit us. They like to throw us across the room. They pull out our hair. They yank out our hair. My 2 little sisters right now are chained up." The call lasted 22 minutes. 22 minutes of a terrified girl describing a lifetime of horror. In less than 2 hours, police would arrive at the house. And everything would change. When the first officer arrived, Jordan showed him her phone, the photos she had secretly taken, her sisters in chains, pale, skeletal, lying in filthy beds. Deputies went to the house. They knocked on the door. David and Louise answered, calm, normal looking. "We're here for a welfare check," the deputy said. Louise was perplexed. She couldn't understand why police were at her home. Then the deputies stepped inside, and the smell hit them. Human waste, decaying garbage, molding food, the stench of years of neglect. And then they found the children, sitting quietly in filthy beds, limp, frail, caked in dirt, their arms covered in bruises. One of the sons was still chained to his bed. He had been chained for weeks. 2 of the daughters had just been released from their chains. When the deputies knocked, David and Louise rushed to unchain them. to hide the evidence, but the bruises on their wrists gave them away. Jennifer, the oldest, was 29 years old. She weighed 82 pounds. A 12-year-old child had an arm circumference equivalent to a 4-month-old baby. That evening, around 9 p.m., David and Louise Turpin were arrested. Jordan sat in the back of a police car and watched as her parents were led away in handcuffs. It was over. After decades of torture, it was finally over. The Turpin case shocked America. News crews surrounded the house. The story dominated headlines for weeks. The 13 children were taken to hospitals. They received medical care, many of them for the first time in their lives. The hospital staff nicknamed them the Magnificent 13. Jennifer remembered the moment she felt truly free. She heard music playing in the hospital, and she got up to dance. For the first time in her life, Jordan and her sisters went to a park, their first time ever. Jordan thought to herself, how could heaven be better than this? In February 2019, David and Louise pleaded guilty to 14 felony counts each, including torture, child abuse, false imprisonment. At the sentencing hearing, some of the children chose to speak. One daughter gave an incredibly powerful statement. Life may have been bad, but it made me strong. I fought to become the person that I am. I'm a fighter. I'm strong. And I'm shooting through life like a rocket. David and Louise were each sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. The judge called their actions selfish, cruel, and inhumane. But the story doesn't end there. After their rescue, some of the children were placed in foster care. And, incredibly, tragically, some of them were abused again. The foster parents were arrested and charged. In 2024, one foster father was sentenced to 7 years. An investigation found that the system failed the Turpin children over and over again. Today, the siblings continue to heal. Jordan has become an advocate for abuse survivors. Jennifer published a book about her experiences. The siblings remain close, united by their shared survival. The Turpin case forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Evil doesn't always look like evil. David and Louise Turpin look like loving parents. They posted happy photos. They took their kids to Disneyland. They smiled at the camera. And behind those smiles, chains, starvation, torture, decades of unspeakable cruelty. Jennifer Turpin described her childhood with one word: hell. The only word I know to call it is hell. But she also said something else. I want the Turpin name to be known for something different. I want people to say, wow, they're strong. They're not broken. They've got this. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, please reach out for help. The National Child Abuse Hotline is 1-800-42-244-53. You are not alone. This has been The Hidden World. Thank you for watching. If this video moved you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Leave a comment and let me know what case you want me to cover next, because there are always more secrets hiding in plain sight, more darkness beneath the surface, more hidden worlds waiting to be exposed. Until next time, stay safe out there.